or Facebook, or you're watching the replay, you notice I am wearing my, I wear this. Now, some people will say orange. Some people say, no, it's kind of like a burnt sienna. Well, actually, lighter than a burnt sienna, but it's not orange. I call it saffron. Now, you say, Emil, saffron is red. And maybe it's more reddish. It's kind of like a purplish red. Well, here's the thing. You take saffron and you take dried saffron and you crunch it up and you drop it into a liquid like your coffee, like I do. That's why I am so remarkably unamok at times, because the saffron kicks in. But there is, I guess, an umbra effect. You know, the saffron in the water, or the hot coffee, and that color around the little bit of saffron, that red, that color is this color of my jacket, or my windbreaker. And this is the monk's color, right? This is why so many monks end up wearing this color. And it's because, yeah, it's saffron. You said, no, that's orange. No, it's saffron. Okay, well, you can argue with a monk. So I wear it because it reminds me of me at my most monkish. I'm wearing the monk's color. Anyway. And of course, if you're just listening to the audio of this, you're saying, what the hell are you talking about, Emil? Look, I'm going to wear this on Sunday. I was going to wear something, it's not a business meeting on Sunday. It's at the Oakland Asian Cultural Center on May 28th, Sunday the 28th, 2 p.m. It's free. If you're in Oakland, you just have to register at Eventbrite, eventbrite.com, eventbrite.com, and search for Strong Like Bamboo. That's the name of the event. 6 storytellers. I'm one of them. We're going to tell stories about Asian American history and discrimination, stories of perseverance and resilience, about how we have overcome. And these are important stories to tell during an era of anti-Asian violence. The event is put on by the Asian American Storytellers in Action, also Ethnotech, also the Oakland Asian Cultural Center, and funded by California Council of the Arts and other great funders who said, hey, this would be a great event to have at the Oakland Asian Cultural Center as we come to a close with Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Island Heritage Month. And so the group I'm in, the Asian American Storytellers in Action, they decided months ago that we had to do a program like this in response to the numbers of transgressions against Asian Americans, minor to major, some very minor instances against Asians, to outright deadly violent acts. It runs the gamut. There's been about 14,000 of these instances as counted by, or self-reported through Stop AAPI Hate. The founder of Stop AAPI Hate, Russell Jung, will be there. Professor Russell from San Francisco State University, the College of Ethnic Studies. So he'll be there, and the storytellers will tell their stories. There'll be a panel discussion. People will be there to talk, and then people will be able to break up into groups and tell their own stories to their little pods of people there. It's a community event. And then afterwards, there'll be a couple of short movies on Asian American history, and then a musical number by Robert Kokuchi Ngoho, a Filipino-American, Japanese-American musician and part of Ethnotech, the theater company that is also co-sponsoring this event. His wife, Nancy Huang, is also telling a story. Robert is as well. And then it ends up with a performance by, they're called senior rappers, older women who rap, and they'll be out there. They're called Follies, the Follies, and they'll end up the afternoon, 2 to 5 p.m. It's free. All you have to do is register at Eventbrite, eventbrite.com, and then you're registered. You can come to the event live. And if you're interested in attending just the Zoom, you have to go to. This is not easy, but if you want to Zoom this event, say you're in New York or Hawaii or someplace, and you can't make it to Oakland, then you can Zoom the event, live streamed, as it were, on. Let's see. To get the information, go to ALDEF, aaldef.org/blog, and go to my column, my most recent column. And then you'll see, scroll down to the bottom, you'll see links on how to get the Zoom link. But it's going to be a fun event. I know it's Memorial Day weekend. What are you doing? Are you going to cook more hot dogs? You shouldn't have hot dogs. I know, vegan hot dogs are okay. But you shouldn't have those other processed hot dogs. They are the real cancer sticks. It's not cigarettes. It's those hot dogs. But vegan hot dogs are fine. And in fact, vegan hot dogs, to be totally honest, they're the best replications of real meat products out there, I think. I mean, you could try all the other ones. Chicken's not bad. The fake chicken. My favorite fake meat is a company up in Portland. They make a product called soy curls. They are great. Soy curls. Yeah. Made out of soy. But I have no interest in the product financially. I just think that they are a great fake meat substitute. But anyway, how did I get off on this tangent of talking about vegan hot dogs? Anyway, the storytelling show, Strong Like Bamboo, at the Oakland Asian Cultural Center, 2 to 5 p.m., Sunday, May 28th. I'll be wearing my monk's garb. This is kind of monk's garb, I think, this color. For me, I think, if this is Emil saffron color. And I'll be telling my story. All right, I hope you're there. I hope you're there, May 28th. All right. Welcome to Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. Today, a number of things on the agenda. I'm going to talk about that Jeopardy thing where that guy, Ben Chan, got Benedicked. I mean, come on. I could see why the judges were sticklers, but we'll talk about that in a second. I also will talk about DeSantis, since he's declaring, or he's filed papers today, and he's going to do a Twitter thing later on tonight. Are you into that, Ron DeSantis? After what he did last week to higher ed in Florida, after what he did to K through 12 in Florida, Ron DeSantis is not the guy to be president. Not if you're a person of color. But that's sort of where Republicans want to go. They want to diffuse any kind of criticism by calling it unpatriotic to hear anything critical about the United States. To the point of where Ron DeSantis is banning controversial history. It's controversial because it disagrees with Santis's politics. Otherwise, it's not controversial. It's just the facts. But DeSantis last week and throughout the first anti-woke bill, I think last year, now he's got anti-woke 2, and now he's running for president on an anti-woke platform. So, Ron DeSantis, we should know about what he's doing. Keep your enemies close. But this is going to be the first day of the rest of his presidential campaign, apparently. And we'll talk about that today. I want to talk about Tina Turner. Man, you know, when I was going through her biography, I was a young kid. I was a young kid still impacted by Tina Turner. There she was, doing her thing. And I think I may have first seen her on television on Shindig, right? Ike and Tina Turner. And then throughout later on in my rock and roll consumption years, what a performer. I saw her in person a number of times. Very, very fortunate to see her live. And now I've seen her so many times, not just live, but on camera, movies, documentaries, TV, that they all kind of blend in. It's the Tina Turner experience. But you see her evolution throughout the years, from when she was the girl who met Ike Turner in St. Louis and then became a regularly performing star. I mean, all throughout. I mean, since the last 60 years, she's been a presence in my life. So we'll talk about her because she deserves it. She died today at 83. She was where was she? She was in Switzerland when the announcement was made on Facebook. Long illness. So Tina Turner, let's see what else we're going to talk about. We talked about strong like bamboo. And I want to get into, I'll close with a happy story about a Nepalese man who climbed Mount Everest. You won't want to miss that. So I want to talk about this because it hasn't gotten any play today. Didn't see much. It was on page 2, Wall Street Journal. And people of color especially Asian Americans, they need to hear about this. House members offer rare bipartisan immigration plan. This is important. This is by Michelle Hackman, Siobhan Hughes out of Washington. The lead, a bipartisan group of lawmakers reached an agreement on a sweeping compromise immigration bill. Now, when have you ever hear that? You hear people talking about it. You hear people wishing that they would tackle immigration. Well, here's a bipartisan bill. The broadest such effort offered in Congress in a decade, according to this report. The legislation led by Representatives Maria Elvira Salazar, Representative of Florida, and Veronica Escobar, Democrat of Texas, there's your bipartisanship, and backed by at least half a dozen or more lawmakers. Okay, that's a 6. That's not many. Out of a body of several hundred, there's going to be a lot of arm twisting. But the fact that they did this is important. It offers millions of immigrants in the country illegally a 12-year path to citizenship. A 12-year path with changes streamlining the asylum system at the border and an expansion of available work visas. Now, why wouldn't we be hearing about all this? Because we're hearing, well, lately at this hour, we're hearing a lot about Tina Turner, which is a great star. We need to hear that. We've been hearing a lot about the anniversary of Uvalde, which is important. And they're still squabbling over what's wrong with the police reaction there. No one's taking responsibility, and no one's passing any laws to prevent another Uvalde from happening again. So that's frustrating. And then we're hearing a lot about DeSantis, which is, important because, look, he wants to be president. And there's so many reasons why he shouldn't. But really, for people of color, Asian Americans in particular, well, because this is Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable, the micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs and the ALLs. That's all the rest of you. You don't have to be Asian. But really, this is a big deal. You got two members, Republican and Democrat, and a handful of other members of the House, and they said, here's a 12-year path to citizenship. Here's some changes in the asylum system. Here's an expansion of available work visas. That is important. The bill has no immediate hope of passing, says this story, with House Republicans vowing not to take up any immigration legislation this term other than to tighten the border amid a record number of illegal border crossings in President Biden's first 2 years in office. Salazar, who introduced a version of the bill 2 years ago without a path to citizenship, is seen as an outlier in the GOP on immigration. Well, she'd have to be if she did this 2 years ago and now she's coming back and says, here's a 12-year path to citizenship. The main sponsors are bracing for criticism from their own parties. Of course, you have to expect that. If you're going to go out on the limb and be courageous, you got to expect that. But tell this to the public and see if the public can drive this. That's where you're going to get some kind of movement and momentum. The bill's main sponsors are bracing for criticism, but also hoping to test whether the increased flow of immigrants or migrants into the U.S. might have broken a decades-long political impasse. It represents, I think, the best chance for finally addressing what has been a decades-old issue. Escobar, Veronica Escobar, Democrat of Texas, that's what she said. Here's some of the main components. And it's important to talk about this because the headline will just be, here's a 12-year path to citizenship. Here's changes in streamlining the asylum system. And here's the expansion of available work visas, but here's some other specifics, a couple of bullets. It would pay for more Border Patrol agents, as well as additional surveillance technology and border fencing. So there, you got the fence people pleased. You got the Border Patrol people pleased. Asylum-seeking migrants would be sent to new humanitarian campuses along the border that are managed by the federal government. There, they would have access to legal counsel and receive an asylum decision within 60 days. So you wouldn't have to be sending them out somewhere to cities to be with relatives. They can stay in these humanitarian campuses, which sounds like it's going to be a lot better than shipping them off to a city where no one wants them, or when there's some kind of political fight over, any kind of shipment of these people from the border to another. DeSantis did this stunt, right? Shipping off people from the border to, where was it? Was it Boston? Someplace in the north. It would create a new 7-year dignity program for immigrants in the country illegally to pay a $5,000 penalty and gain legal status. So that's 5 years. But then after 7 years, if they pay an additional $5,000 penalty, they would become eligible for permanent resident status known as the green card. Now, there's your 12-year plan. Now, what is wrong with a dignity plan? I mean, nothing. But look, you're not seeing anyone talk about this on the news. I'm reading a report from the Wall Street Journal. Because, truth be told, if the Republicans were honest with their conservatism, they would truly be, if they're for free markets, they'd be for free markets and immigration. But the Republicans are all screwed up. They still like Donald Trump. That's how screwed up they are. But you got to hand it to Maria Elvira Salazar, a Republican from Florida, and Representative Veronica Escobar, a Democrat for Texas, for trying one more time to get this kind of immigration plan in that has a pathway to citizenship. Now, three other points. It would also require the use of E-Verify, an online system that checks whether an employee is legally authorized to work for every sector of the economy, including agriculture. So E-Verify, not the most popular thing around, but it's there. People know it. It would fund 5 regional processing centers throughout Latin America where migrants could apply to come to the U.S. as a refugee on a work visa. So the bottleneck gets taken care of in their home countries before they take the trek and come up here. And, we see the mess on the southern border. If it was orderly before they get there, could help. And finally, it would make more green cards and temporary visas available, including creating a new year-round visa for farm workers. These are all things that could be done easily if people get off their ideological intransigence and try to come up with a common sense notion of how to solve the immigration plan or immigration problem. And you do that by coming up with a plan that has a pathway to citizenship. Now, I don't see anything here about DACA, but there. Oh, who is this? Oh, I don't need these guys. That's DACA saying, yeah, what about us? I know. What about DACA? So, it doesn't have anything about DACA, but DACA is always one of those things that it gets caught up in the pathway to citizenship thing. Although, really, I mean, DACA is its own separate thing, where it's caught up in the courts, and they've stalled talks to move it forward if stalled. So as long as it's stalled, people who have DACA can stay. So the bigger problem of immigration is out there. And if there's some solid, now this article says this bill has no immediate hope of passing. So, this is just a waste of time. No, this is how it's done. There are 2-year terms. You get something introduced, you try to get it through, you keep getting it through. I mean, if Filipino Americans know how hard it was to get funding to make the veteranos, the Philippine veterans who fought in World War II alongside the U.S., how hard it was to get them funding. It took decades. So hats off to the people, the two specific people, Representatives Maria Elvira Salazar, representative of Florida, and Veronica Escobar, Democrat from Texas. So you had a Republican, Salazar, Escobar, the Democrat, trying to do something. It's more than people have done in decades, or at least in a decade. So it's not dead. If you're wondering, well, they're never talking about immigration. They're talking about it now. They're talking about it now. Okay, so Ron DeSantis has filed. He's going to run. He's going to be in this Twitter thing tonight, audio only with Elon Musk. I don't know. I don't like the Twitter platform. I'm on it. You can, but the viewer take is sort of hard to get used to. I'm not on Twitter all the time, but I put this video. You can see it live on my Twitter account at Emil Amok, EMILAMOK. But Ron DeSantis, it's interesting with DeSantis. They had CNN polling today. The top choice for 2024 GOP nominee among the GOP and GOP leaning voters is still Donald Trump at 53%. So no matter what Donald Trump does, he loses a civil case for violating a woman's rights, right? For sexual abuse, for being a sexual abuser. It's not rape. It wasn't a criminal trial. It was a civil trial, and he was found liable for sexual abuse. Who do you want for president? Oh, you want the sexual abuser. Okay, great. That's glad to see Republicans out there, 53% still say the sexual abuser, Donald Trump, is their choice for president. Now, closest to him is Ron DeSantis at 26, which you might say, if you're a DeSantis fan, oh, that's great. But DeSantis is actually dropped. In March, he was 36%. Now he's just 26%. So I don't know how great that is for DeSantis, except that, he wasn't able to do a lot during, previous months to this poll because he was governor. Now he's done with, passing his budget and passing bills there in Florida, which really should turn you off to Ron DeSantis. If you know what he did, in terms of diversity, inclusion, and, equity. I mean, DeSantis isn't the guy. So he's down at 26%. And then comes Mike Pence at 6% and Nikki Haley at 6%. But guess what? The margin of error here is like 5.8%, which means they could have less than 1%. And then there's Tim Scott, who announced his candidacy this week. And then Chris Christie, former Trump ally, he's got 2%, which is like into negative numbers when you consider the margin for error. So that's the Republican field. Oh, whoopee, right? If you're a Republican, 40% of Asian Americans are left or right leaning. So I can't see how any of this is exciting anybody. And look at how Nikki Haley at 6% is exciting Asian Americans everywhere who are Republican. Not by much. Interesting thing with Nikki Haley, she went on and made accusations that Ron DeSantis actually copies Donald Trump. You mean as a sexual abuser? You mean for liking, his own daughter? No. Nikki Haley is making the accusation that Ron DeSantis is copying Trump's style. This is an old sales technique, an old sales technique where you mirror the activity and the sound to build up a kind of empathy. I know it's ridiculous, but sales psychology, it works. So I guess it works that if people like Trump, 53%, and DeSantis is at 26, the more he copies Trump, the more you might think, oh, DeSantis is just a young Trump. So I wonder who is his young E. Jean Carroll that, he loses to in a sexual abuse case. I mean, if he copies him for everything. So I don't know. I don't think it works. As soon as Nikki Haley pointed it out, people started looking at Trump and DeSantis, how they mirror each other. I don't know. Although it could be that it's a way that people say, oh, Trump is old, but DeSantis is young, and we're getting a clone of Donald Trump. We're going to vote for DeSantis. I don't know. Maybe I'm not a DeSantis or Trump fan, but here's another question that the CNN poll asked. And they asked GOP and GOP leaning folks, who would you consider? And, supporting. And 85% said Ron DeSantis. I mean, he by far overwhelms, the other candidates who are running. Well, actually, he outpoints Donald Trump, who, as a second, I guess 84% of people who are like other people would consider Trump. So Trump is, even though he's a number two for these folks, he's still up there. He's still beloved by Republicans. Nikki Haley is at 61%, which is good for her. So she's not wasting her time, although maybe she is. Tim Scott's at 60. And I guess the good news for both Haley and Trump, or Haley and Scott, is they both outpoint Mike Pence, who is at 54. And I think Pence is kind of done. Anyway, this is DeSantis's time now. He's filed. He's going to announce on Twitter with Elon Musk, which I think he must think that must be a good thing. I don't think so, but we'll see. I'm not a DeSantis fan. I'll say that out front. And I don't think he's helped himself with people of color, Asian Americans, African Americans, not after what he did to education, K through 12 and higher ed earlier this week. So if you're a DeSantis supporter, power to you. I know 40% of Asian Americans are Republicans, but this is where I would, as an Asian American Republican, I'm not, but if I were, I would say, I don't like any of these guys. And maybe you act like Jennifer Rubin of the Washington Post and denounce your Republicanism and say, I'm more like a moderate Democrat. Maybe that's what you do. And say, yeah, I'm a moderate Democrat. And, Joe Biden, not so bad. Not so bad. I think that's what you got to conclude. Now, are you a Jeopardy watcher? Oh, my God. Ben Chan was Benedicked. Let's go to the AP story here. I mean, Ben Chan, cool guy, Asian American, had $17,400. He was asked Final Jeopardy question. He's an assistant professor of philosophy, so he's St. Norbert College in Wisconsin. So he's not corporate Asian. He's the good kind of Asian out there. He knows the life of the mind is where it's at. So, Final Jeopardy. He was, the question had to do with the name of the characters in Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. And they mean the same thing. There was some, I don't have the exact clue in this story. But he had to name the characters. Everyone else in Final Jeopardy said Romeo and Juliet, which is baloney. It's wrong. Chan named the two lovers, Beatrice and Benedict. But he said Benedict. Not past tense. It's not past. It's Benedict. Benedict. He said Benedict. And he really meant Benedict. Benedick. So by swapping out the K for a T, he lost. They wouldn't give it to him. Now, I would have given it to him. But the clue was or the answer, which is the clue in Jeopardy, was so specific that Benedict and Benedict are really the wrong, they're two different words. They don't mean the same thing. So you can't just get away with, sounds like. It's wrong. Like, Paris, France is different from Paris, Texas. You're in a different place. It's that critical. And so it's a good thing that the Jeopardy judges nixed Chan. Where I would fault Chan is how he bet. He was at 17,400. He bet 12,000, ended up with 5, and he overshot. Now, here's why you should bet 12,000, because you think the other folks would go for it also, and that if they're better, if you're better than them and they're wrong, well, then they'll be nothing and you'll have more than they do. But they didn't. They bet conservatively, and they ended up with like 11,000, something like that. They didn't go for it. Ben Chan went for it, bet 12,000. His 17,000 ended up being like 5,400, which wasn't good enough to win. I mean, he finished far behind the eventual winner, Lynn DeVito. You just bet a lower amount. So, look, don't feel bad for Chan. Ben Chan still earned $252,600. I mean, he had quite a run. I mean, I like to watch Jeopardy every now and then, but I think I was watching the basketball game. So, too bad for Ben. He's going to return for the Tournament of Champions. People with the longest winning streaks. He had a 10-game streak. And it's sad because the viewers on social media were upset, saying that, hey, Ben Chan shouldn't have been eliminated on that little tiny detail. And someone pointed out that some resources, including the Shakespeare Birthplace Trust, spelled the character's name Benedicked, Benedict, but the correct spelling is Benedict. So Ben Chan gets dicked, I guess. He says, and here is the grace of a scholar. He says, I hope that in all the 10 games, the way I play showed gratitude and appreciation for what a unique opportunity this is. And yes, assistant professor of philosophy at St. Norbert College in Wisconsin, Ben Chan being philosophical as he should be and adult and mature. Now, if this were me, I would not be that adult and mature. I would say, what do you mean Benedict over Benedict? What do you mean? Oh, I would have been all over them. I would have gone amok. It wouldn't have been right. Hats off to Ben Chan for being, once again, more mature than me. That's just all it is. More mature. More mature than me. All right, a couple other things. Like last night, I wasn't watching this because I was watching, I was watching a little bit of the basketball game where the Heat looked like they were going to take care of the Boston Celtics, but in the third quarter, the Celtics woke up and said, hey, what's wrong with us? And they annihilated the Heat, which makes it a little tricky now because every other game is they played Miami, now they go to Boston and they go to Miami. Now that would have been game 4. A game 4 win in Miami would have been perfect for the Heat. Filipino American coach, half Filipino, so rooting for him. They couldn't do it. They couldn't close it out. Now they got to go to Boston. Boston is pumped up. They're motivated. Is the Heat ready to take on Boston in Boston with the home fans going crazy for the Celtics? If not, game 5, if it goes to the Celtics, it's 3-2 Miami has to come back and win game 6 in Miami. Now, maybe they do, but this is where the back and forth is really kind of interesting. And I don't know. Miami looked bad. Yes, they looked like they should have looked at the beginning, but they were playing kind of crazy out of their minds. And the Celtics are playing like, what are we doing here? We're only the number 2 seed. We're playing like we don't belong here. So, look, for my Celtics fans or my Celtics friends, I hope their team wins, but I would really like to see Eric Spoelstra in the Heat. The Filipino coach. Yeah, I'd like to see him win. All right, so let's see if they take care of it in game 5 in Boston. Interesting rumor being spread by The Ringer, and that is LeBron James, who made everyone choke up about how he could possibly retire. People are now saying, well, wait a minute, maybe LeBron should join the Golden State Warriors, because we know that LeBron likes Draymond Green. He likes to play with Stephen Curry. This could be the old folks' home basketball team. They're not that old. You know, LeBron is 38, Curry's 35, Draymond Green is 33. That's a nice spread. But, you know, LeBron on the Warriors would make the Warriors better. Of course, they'd have to probably give up Wiggins and give up Jordan Poole and Kuminga, all the young guys who aren't good enough to win for Stephen Curry now. I mean, every now and then you can expect a good game from Wiggins and Poole, but consistently, I don't know. If the Warriors did it, pull the trigger on that kind of deal, that would be like a super team. Still, for a couple years, it might be worth it just to finish out basketball history, because I think you got to realize that LeBron James probably is the best basketball player ever. All right. Have I said enough about Tina Turner? I think early on I did mention how she's been around at every phase of my life. I'm in kindergarten. There's Tina Turner on TV. I'm in high school. There's Tina Turner singing at my prom. At any event, any event that has contemporary music, there's Tina Turner. You're simply the best. Oh, yeah. Simply the best. Proud Mary. Okay, my name's Emil, but I'll make the transposition. Proud Mary, yes. Go with that. I love Tina Turner. And, you know, she was really short. I love her for that. I mean, her platform shoes and her hair, with the hair. Oh, yeah, she, incredible performer, incredible dancer. And so I was under her spell from the time I was a young boy, watching Shindig on ABC. And, you know, this is a kind of story where cuts across all generations, not just OGs like me, but a lot of young people. You know, they look at, they know Tina Turner. Although, man, she was 83 years old. Anyway, hats off to Tina Turner, who passed away today. Okay, one last story. I'm going to read this one last story because it is a happy story. It's a happy story, and I got to find this happy story. Here's good news. Hari Buddha Magar, a Nepalese double amputee, war veteran. Just want to make sure it sinks in. Has reached the top of Mount Everest. Buddha Magar is the first ever above-knee double amputee to reach the highest point on Earth. Can you imagine that? If you think you can't do it, if you think you're not good enough or can't make it to the end, think of Hari Buddha Magar, the first ever above the knee double amputee to reach the highest point on earth. He used prosthetics fitted with ice cleats to achieve the feat. So here he is, he's crawling up there. And you get up there, up Everest, and you're passing the trail, and you see all these people who didn't make it. I mean, how inspiring that you're a double amputee above the knee. You got these prosthetics, and you're passing all these dead people, and you're coming up to the top of the highest point in the world. So this is news breaking because Buddha Magar had to overcome legal hurdles before the expedition because in 2017, the Nepalese government barred amputees and blind people from climbing Everest. Now, if you're a blind person or a barred, if you're an amputee, when that happened in 2017, you're probably saying, they're not stopping me. They're not going to stop me. That's what Buddha Magar said. They launched a campaign against the decision and claimed it discriminated against people with disabilities. And then the Nepalese Supreme Court, they got one. The Nepalese Supreme Court overturned the ban. Now, Magar served in the British Army as a Gurkha soldier in Afghanistan, lost his legs in 2010 after stepping on an IED, an improvised explosive device, and now here he is, the first ever above-knee double amputee to reach the highest point on earth. Hari Buddha Magar, Nepalese double amputee war veteran. God, now he made it up to Everest. He's a war veteran. That's inspiring. I mean, that's inspiring. Hari Buddha, B-U-D-H-A, Magar, M-A-G-A-R. Check it out. And like I said, I mean, if you don't think you could do something, look at Hari. He did it. That's our show for today. Let me remind you that Strong Like Bamboo, it's a storytelling event, but it's really a cultural event. And it was started by Nancy Huang, who's a psychotherapist, but also a storyteller. She helps lead the Asian Storytellers in Action. She has her own company, Ethnotech, out of San Francisco. And I just remember being in a Zoom meeting during the pandemic when the Atlanta spa murders happened. And we all knew we had to do something about this because this was the high point of the instances of AAPI hate in the United States during the pandemic. So the Stop AAPI Hate co-founder, Russell Jung, will be there. After the stories, he'll lead a panel discussion with the storytellers. We're expecting not like hundreds of people, but there'll be a good-sized crowd. We'll break into a group into pods where people can tell stories to each other. There'll be an opportunity to see 2 short films on Asian America. Plus, there's going to be song and dance. Robert Kikuchi and Goho will have prepared a song about resilience, and then these older senior rappers, or female rap, it's a female rap group called The Follies. They'll be there to perform and take us out for the evening. 2 to 5. It's free. Oakland Asian Cultural Center, 388 9th Street in Oakland, 2nd floor. Check it out. You got to register to attend the event at Eventbrite. eventbrite.com, eventbrite.com. Check it out. Hope to see you there. I'll be there. I'm one of the storytellers. And then if you can't make it there because you live inexplicably on the East Coast or Hawaii or wherever, whatever paradise you've chosen, you can go on Zoom and get a Zoom link by going to my ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. Go to the latest story and go scroll all the way down, and you'll see where you can get links to get a Zoom link if you are far away and can't be in Oakland. But it's fun, it's live, and I'm telling you, I've started to do more live stuff. So I'm officially back. I'm back from the pandemic, although it's not over, but I'm back from the pandemic. Hey, thank you for joining me today. Hey, the PETA podcast dropped today. Check it out wherever you podcast. The PETA podcast, talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. Have you seen it? Check out the podcast. And this is the live reality podcast where I do it live, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, talking about the news. It's kind of like a news talk show. And yeah, we do it live, 2 to 5. Get it here. See it on YouTube at Emil Amok 1, EMILAMOK1. See it on Facebook, fb.com/EmilGuillermo.media, or see it on Twitter at Emil Amok, EMILAMOK. There it is. Oh, there's Emil. I've done 525 of these. What an idle chap I am. And yeah, I talk about the day's news. Talk about life. Check out the others on replay at amok.com. So www.amok.com will get you the replays. I also like to meditate. Oh, you know that. Can't think about Buddha Magar, double amputee, climbing up Everest. Every time I think, I'm too tired to go on. I can't do this shit. Emil, it's easy to shut up. I like to meditate. And I always end the show with a little bit of loving kindness. And because you need a little self-care, goes a long way. But before you give it to yourself, remember, share it with others. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal